So I'm going to try to move quickly through Germany here. What we talk about today really lays a foundation, Justin, for World War I. I'm not talking about you starting it. I'm just making sure that you're catching the fact that this is the beginnings of what will be the foundation for World War I. So we are looking at Bismarck. He's the guy that we need to credit for helping to unify Germany. We'll talk about him specifically. By the time we get here to 1815, there are 39 German states that form together the German Confederation. Essentially, it is a loose-knit group of peoples and states that are trying to become their own nation. Prussia is interested in seeing Germany become unified. A lot of the Prussian people have German heritage, and Prussia is really wanting to bring that all together to become one German country. And so they do a lot to help assist in all of that. They have a number of advantages that will help to aid Germany. Prussia has a huge German population. They have a very powerful army, and they are prepared to use both to help unify the German people and to make Germany a massive and powerful country. So they are going to take advantage of that. They also have a very liberal constitution, which allows them to be able to do a lot of things regardless of the people's desires or intent. And so that gives them a little bit more freedom. If you do miss any of this stuff, keep in mind the PowerPoint does have the same stuff on Canvas, so you can always go back to that if I am going a little bit too quickly today. But I would like for us to make sure we get through Germany, if at all possible, before we leave. So here's Otto von Bismarck, and he's the guy that is really given credit for unifying Germany. He takes control. He uses the assistance or works alongside with a group of people known as Junkers. The J is silent in this. These are the wealthy landowners, and they are in support of the Prussian leader. His name was Wilhelm I. And so he gets the control, or he gets the support of the Junkers. And they have an idea or ideal known as realpolitik. And that's where Otto von Bismarck comes to the forefront. He comes in as a leader. He comes out of this group of Junkers that they support Prussia. Prussia is going to support them. And we're going to see him rise to the top from this group of called Junkers. Now, realpolitik is a definition, is a term that you need to be familiar with in this particular setting. Essentially what it is that he is going to be a mastermind of using real politics as they are without allowing for idealism to influence his decision making. So he's going to look at the current situation. He's going to say, this is the way things are, and this is what we need to do about them. Not, well, I think this is the way things could be, or in a perfect world, it would be more like this, or putting all those idealistic views aside, he's going to be a straight talker, and he's going to have an action plan. And because he was such a smooth talker and such a man of action, man of plan, the people respected him, and they put him up into higher levels of leadership. So he becomes the prime minister because of his viewpoints, because of his popularity among the people. Now, as time moves on, he ends up turning on the Prussian parliament. So, well, yeah, So here's what Prussia was trying to control Bismarck as well as control the German people. They were trying to help them unify. They were also trying to use it for their own advantage. Now, Otto von Bismarck, he actually went to the king of Prussia, and he got the king's approval to violate what Parliament had done. Basically, Parliament had said this: we're not going to give you any money to operate the government the way you want to. And so as prime minister, he said, fine, I don't need your money. I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. I believe I'm popular enough with the people that they're going to listen to me. I have the control of the military. They're going to listen to me. And that's essentially how he defies Parliament and how he goes off and he does his own thing with that. He's quoted in your book as saying this about Russian Parliament. It's not by means of speeches and majority resolutions that the great issues of the day will be decided. That was the great mistake of 1848 and 1849, but by blood, which he was referring back to mistakes that Prussia had made in the past. He says it's going to happen by going out and fighting for it. Yes, ma'am?
Mr. Joe, I forgot something at home. I need to call my mom, and she has to pray. Can I go call her right now, please?
Yes, that'd be fine. So that gives you a little bit about where he came from, what he did, and actually it's kind of interesting when we start studying Adolf Hitler, there's a number of parallels with the way that Hitler rises to power and eventually takes over as chancellor, or gets elected as chancellor of Germany, and then takes over as dictator. So here we are going to see Prussia expanding. The video talked a little bit about how they were going and recapturing the territory of people that are speaking German. And so they go into Denmark. They gain 2 provinces out of there that were German-speaking provinces, and they put them into the Prussian borders. They also, because they did such a great job, that should be victory on there, makes the other nations respect Prussia. And so the territories that had not yet been brought in under Prussian control now look at Prussia as a serious threat and perhaps even a powerful enough nation to willingly join in with them. And so that brings us here to the 7 Weeks' War. I alluded to that a little bit earlier today. The 7 Weeks' War was where the Prussians went in and they intentionally provoked a quick war with Austria over a border dispute. There's actually some backstory which historians have looked into that as far as, was this really a real war or not, or was it all made up on lies and false assumptions? But either way, Bismarck is, almost everybody agrees that Bismarck is the one who essentially manufactured or created this war and provoked it with Austria to help gain more power for Prussia. So Prussia then takes Austrian territory, which is today northern Germany. And for the very first time in history, we see the eastern and western sides and parts of the Prussian kingdom join together. And all of this is happening to put together what will eventually become what we know as Germany. And a lot of this was manufactured, and a lot of it was initiated by Otto von Bismarck. The Franco-Prussian War was also a key component of bringing Prussia and Germany together. Bismarck provokes a war with France, just like he did with Austria. And his goal here was to help get the Germans united together on the same page, everybody against France. So nobody likes France, let's pick on them. And let's unite our people together. At the end of this war, Prussia has established itself as a powerful enough country that now they are going to crown the king as emperor, and they use the term Kaiser instead of emperor or Caesar or Tsar. They use the term Kaiser. So that should be associated with a German term for their emperor. at Versailles. We all know where Versailles is. Yeah, King Louis, Palace of Versailles, yes, the same place, okay? So he is crowned Kaiser there at Versailles, and it's at this point here that they declare Germany a unified nation, and Prussia essentially merges in with Germany, all the German-speaking people, and so Prussia, in a sense, ceases to exist, but it's more of an assimilation where they don't necessarily stop their government, but they now become just one big super nation. So they call this the Second Reich, just like Mr. Reich down the hall. They call it the Second Reich because it was supposed to be the second coming of one of the greatest empires in Europe. And when we get to Adolf Hitler, he is going to call his empire the Third Reich. So this is the second one. The first one, yes, Mr. Reich. No. The first one, I believe, I would have to go back and look at that. I'm not exactly sure what the first one would have been considered. I don't remember how Mr. Reich spells his name. Then I think it is the same. I believe it is the same. For sake of time today, I'm going to skip over our assessment of Otto von Bismarck. So, you can read in the slides if you're interested in that. As a result of Germany establishing itself as the Second Reich, a powerful empire here, there is a shift in the balance of power. Essentially, the balance is lost when this happens because now we have Germany becoming this massive superpower in the middle of Europe and a bunch of other countries that are not nearly as powerful. France is on the decline, Austria's on the decline, Italy is just forming, and so that's going to cause some shakeup there. In 1815, we should connect this with Napoleon. Remember, it was 1815 when Napoleon was exiled for the final time out of France. Okay? So this is at the end of Napoleon's reign in France. They come together in Vienna, Austria, and they establish what they would consider the 5 powers of Europe. These are the 5 nations that they determine are the key countries here. They still refer to Germany as Prussia here in this particular Congress, but those are the 5 most powerful in all of Europe, which in essence is all of the world. These would be the top 5 countries there. By 1871, it's really down to these 2. Over the next almost 60 years, Britain and Prussia make huge advances. We should call it Germany by this point. They've gained much power and really are dominating most of the world.
Seems like everyone's taking turns dominating the world.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Where's my channel?
So, empires rise and fall. They come and they go. None of these have been permanent, nor will any of the empires continue to be permanent. So you need to review through your notes, be ready for a quiz on Thursday. Make sure that you read through chapter 25, sections 1 and 2.